Okay, thank you. Welcome to tonight's Protective Services Standing Committee meeting of June 3rd, 2025. I can confirm that we have quorum, and I'm going to hand the chair to Councillor Corbett.
Thank you, We'll start with acknowledgement of First Nations. The Mayor and Council wish to acknowledge the town of Fort Smith is located within Treaty 8 territory. Treaty 8 territory also encompasses the traditional homelands of the Salt River First Nation, the Denisovan Nation, and the Indigenous people of Fort Smith. These nations have maintained their stewardship of their sacred lands throughout the generations. We honor your knowledge, teachings, traditions, and the land. We are mindful that colonization has not been kind. We respectfully recognize our generational histories and commit to strive for unity in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. Okay, on our agenda, the next item is item B, which would be the declaration of financial interest. There was none filed, so we can move on to item C, which is review. CA is the agenda. I'd like to get a motion to be able to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll move that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Cox. Any comments, additions? Councillor Heaton?
I'm wondering if we're going to discuss the ATV now that it was published today, or if we can have a conversation about it.
Is it the online post that was put about the Facebook post about protective services?
Yeah.
We could probably discuss it. It's in the report. You can bring it up there.
Oh, yeah.
So take it if there's no additions or comments further. All in favor of the agenda as presented? Passed unanimously. Next item B is minutes. I'd like to get somebody to bring forward a motion for the May 6th Protective Services minutes.
I'll move that the minutes from the Corporate Services Standing Committee meeting on May 6, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Councillor Cox, seconded by
Sure.
Mayor Ferguson.
Correction, I think I meant, we're doing Protective Services first.
Yes. Yeah.
I meant to say Protective Services.
I didn't even hear you say corporate.
Okay, the minutes were circulated in the package. If there's any comments, corrections. Seeing none or hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Passed unanimously. Okay, our packages included the visions and values. I will assume everybody has read through them and there is no comments or criticisms, etc. Moving on, the next item in our agenda is delegations. There was no delegation. Moving onwards. Next item, E, is Director's Report. Protective Services Director Report for May was included in the package. I don't know if the SAO or the Director would care to speak to it.
I might ask our director if he has any highlights he wanted to bring forward.
Sure. Thank you very much. So it's the standard format. We responded to 37 calls over the month of May. We are continuing with our 10-1 structural firefighter training program, and it's going really well. They just wrote their first exam. Just a note there, we are continuing to work across the Fire Chiefs Association and the Northwest Territories to build a wildland urban interface program that can support northern communities with folks in the north and equipment that is owned and operated by municipal fire departments. So we're continuing to work on that program, and ECC has struck a working group with myself and Travis Wright, Fire Chief of Hay River, as two members of leadership with the Fire Chiefs Association to have discussions on how we're going to move forward with the program. We're going to be using some components of that program in our area very shortly, and we did actually deploy some structural protection equipment on the wildfire a few weeks ago. So it's a very important component of battling wildfires in and around urban areas in our community. Training has been extremely busy through the month of May and will continue to be through the summer season. We ran 10 training events over the last 30 days, so quite a lot of work going on there. Live fire exercises, of course, we wound that down. We didn't have a very big window of opportunity to do live fire exercises. We went from winter to summer pretty much overnight, which I think everybody has seen and recognizes the challenges there. Fire Smart programming is going really well. We have, again, a number of folks that are signed up in the community to get Fire Smart assessments done. Last Wednesday, we went through some refresher training with the 7 Fire Smart assessors on the department, and they're going to be working on conducting those assessments over the next month or so. Lands has been very busy, as you can see from the licensing report, tons of development permits, business licenses that have been put forward. Likewise, bylaws have been very busy, and we've had a number of concerns brought forward from the public, a number of instances of unsafe operation of motor vehicles, which was just brought up as a discussion point. So would you like me to just go through the rest of the report and come back to that? Yeah, absolutely. So we can speak to that a little bit more. As far as emergency management, this was written kind of before we came upon developments in the wildfire world. So just for situational awareness, there are a number of wildfires burning in and around the Fort Smith area, only one of note, and none are immediately impacting the town of Fort Smith. But the Tulip Lake fire, which is the fire that started in Alberta, crossed into the territories and is to the east of us, is a fire of concern and one that's being actioned. ECC and Alberta are moving into Unified Command effectively on Thursday, although they're working in Unified Command for the most part already. The Fort Smith Fire Department is working underneath the Wildland Urban Interface branch to assist with structure protection work, prepare for any possible Wildland Urban Interface firefighting. I spent the day with Fire and Flood, which is the contractor brought in by Alberta to provide water for structure protection. We went down and we reviewed water supplies everywhere from Fort Fitzgerald through halfway border town and the east side of the town of Fort Smith. Mostly a precautionary, proactive piece right now. Fort Fitzgerald would be the area most likely to be impacted if there were any growth to the west from this fire. So that's the primary focus and our main objective right now. Again, that's the Smith's Landing land and in Alberta. So we're working in partnership with Smith's Landing and Alberta. I was just in a meeting with Tony Vermillion as a representative of Smith's Landing. I have him tied in with Fire and Flood, and the Fort Smith Fire Department is going to go and deploy structure protection with them as a training event and also to aid in that effort down in Fort Fitzgerald tomorrow, and that'll be our training night / help to deploy some equipment. So that's a great opportunity to work with our local partners and to support the community near us. And that will help us to prepare plans as we move from Fort Fitzgerald towards the town. Again, just identifying water sources, coming up with plans of deployment, identifying how much equipment is needed, etc. So that's well underway. We had a local emergency management meeting today, and we had all 3 local firefighting agencies present, and they gave an update. We reiterated the need to know the plans of our local agency partners, so we're getting plans coming in and continuing to work with folks on business continuity of our critical infrastructure and critical resources in the community. So that work is ongoing, and we'll continue to update the public. We have Ravina as a town resource for information who's teed up with the information officers for both Alberta and BCC so that we can support their messaging without duplicating it or putting out anything incorrect. So again, we'll just continue to make sure our residents have access to information and update as things change. And then there's a brief overview of the occupational health and safety program. We've had great engagement. Again, we did some orientation training and we'll continue to support that and support staff with reporting safety issues and following up and making sure that we have corrective actions in place. The capital projects update, so pretty similar to last time. We're done our IT upgrades as far as protective services is concerned, and we're fully on the SharePoint, which is really advantageous for when I'm away from the office or for us working remotely, and especially as we move through any possible emergencies. Again, having access to that information, we have a Starlink, we can get online and we can access our data anywhere, which is a really nice step forward. Likewise, IT Evergreen, we've got laptops. I've got a laptop so I can work remotely, which is very helpful. And the rest is just working through the process for capital projects. So those are the highlights for me.
Thank you, Director. Any questions?
Sure, I'll start.
Councilor Eaton?
Sure. I was just following up on a meeting prior than usual. The post that was made on your protective services Facebook page today. So I tried to find the bylaw, it said 6:30, that's on the town website, because the dollar amounts don't seem to match. So I'm just wondering where the increase came from.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a fair question. Thank you. So there's kind of two parts to the situation. The ATV bylaw is given force under the All-Terrain Vehicle Act of the Northwest Territories. And so an all-terrain vehicle being operated off-road, but within the municipal boundaries of the town of Fort Smith, has certain requirements that comes with certain fines. The ATV and specifically the dirt bike and quad use that we're seeing right now is on public roadways, and as such, it's a motorized vehicle that's being operated on a public road. Our approach has always been that if we see somebody doing something illegal, even if it is an ATV on a public road, we would attempt to pull them over and do an education piece. We always want to start with that. We don't want to find people. It's not revenue generators. It's not our intent. What we're seeing now is that operators are willfully running from bylaw and RCMP and on public roadways while stunting and speeding, catwalking, speeding down roads, blowing through stop signs in areas where there's children playing, kids on bikes. And so if we're having instances where we know that individual, we've had that interaction, and they are on a public roadway, it is a Motor Vehicle Act infraction at that point because they're operating a motor vehicle on a public road. And so those fines that were highlighted there as the worst case scenario, if people are continuing to do this, is actually a motor vehicle fine. Yeah. But again, wherever possible, if it's a first offense or even a second offense, we'll only use that ATV bylaw with the lower fine amount because again, we're not looking to make money. This is egregious multiple offenders, and that was giving the if egregious things happen, this is the possible.
I just want to just because I'm sure other people are going to be asking the same question.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a very fair question. I appreciate that, and I'll have a look at the post, and maybe that can just be clarified a bit better. Absolutely.
Second question is, I don't know, since you guys got all those new IT and you've got computers everywhere, the stats that are for bylaw enforcement, if we can make it clear the motor vehicle or ATV bylaw infractions, the motor vehicle ones must be under traffic control, is that correct for this month?
Yeah, so for the purposes of this, I have just put motor vehicle and traffic bylaw because there's another opportunity for us to go in two different directions. We have a traffic control bylaw, but the ability to enforce motor vehicle act. And we do the same, we use the same approach. If it's traffic control on a first time offender, we'll err on the side of the bylaw because it's a very, it's a $50 fine. whereas if it's a multiple offender, then we would consider the motor vehicle act. And so for the purposes of these statistics, traffic control is a combination of both our traffic bylaw and our motor vehicle act infractions as traffic generally. Whereas ATV bylaw is just ATV bylaw, but I could break that out better as well.
If possible,
Yeah.
maybe even a category for minors, so that we can see, like, if possible.
Yeah,
Just
that's a bit harder stat to pull, but not impossible, so I'll have a look at that.
Yes, you should. And so last night, it's thought like to me that it's important. Just when you're dealing with the business, they want the official name change, so we want to respect that.
Okay, absolutely, yeah.
I can write it down phonetically.
Yes. Okay.
That was very helpful, absolutely.
Can
And
do.
I can definitely do that.
Thanks. Maybe just a follow-up on that, I know, we tried to do some, I know you guys are always about education first and give like a soft warning and all that, I know you guys are active about doing that for bylaws. But we thought about, is I don't want kids to start running, because, running from police or running from bylaw, that's gonna cause more problems for everybody, right? And I don't want distrust and people, oh man, he's after me again, that it's gonna escalate like that. Can we do some community, I don't know if it's possible, and if there's a way we can partner with the RCMP and maybe the traffic folks and registration and you guys, and do some sort of like rodeo, bike rodeo, something where you're like, do you know what a stop sign means? Do you know what a yield is? Do you know what education? Because maybe they weren't even told, maybe they're possibly, here's your bike, see you later, kid. Like, what if we did that? And possibly, I would definitely help if you want something like finding helmets if they're not wearing helmets and safety gear, because that would be the worst thing is someone getting in an accident not having the right kind of gear. And I'm sure there's places that could get gear from RCMP and stuff like that, but some sort of I don't know, education piece, rodeo piece, bike piece that we partner with them. So hey, see the bylaw's not a bad guy. Like look, he can do that too, or be there to help you with that. I don't know what that looks like, but if you guys, is there a way we can do that?
I'm certainly open to options, of course. My only challenge with that is where you learn what stop sign is when you get your driver's license. That's why it's a legal requirement of operating on the road.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
I don't want kids riding on roads. I should have made that. And also teaching we could make some all right, we know you want to get to the trail. Here's the safe way to get to that trail that's not on our roads. That's what I mean. I don't want kids riding on our roads either.
yeah.
But if you need to cross, stop, look, and then proceed, right? Like the safe way to get out of town.
Yeah, I would love to have some sort of, I wish in hindsight that the integrated transportation master plan had identified corridors of transportation for alternate vehicles both winter and summer. And I feel like that would go a long ways to helping this if we had identified trail systems with identified traffic control devices, little stop signs for the ATV trail, and that was the way out of town at where it crossed the road. I think that will go a long way. But one of our challenges is you say no, you can't, but then where can you and how can you? So I think without having the where you can piece, it's really hard to say the no you can't piece, and I agree with you on that. So I'm open to how we do that, but even under the Territorial Act, a child without a driver's license, even outside of this town, cannot by themselves operate an ATV. And that's not our act.
Thanks. Yeah, it's actually posted in territorial courts that you're allowed to be 14 years old to ride ATVs. So I don't know why that says that, and we have some different rules. So maybe some clarification on that, because it is posted down. If we go to Queenie Park, it says 14 years old may drive. So we need some clarification.
That's true. That's the only campground actually in the whole South Lake, and they're reviewing that right now. But it's actually a misnomer, that sign. It is true if you are in the direct supervision and in line of sight of an operator that does have a valid driver's license. No child without that direct supervision over the age of 14 can actually operate a motor vehicle that has a driver's license without direct supervision of somebody who does have it. So that sign's not the whole story.
Maybe they need to be educated.
I think they're working on that.
Well, even though, like, the teaching them about the stop signs and that, I think those arc signals are very important when they're riding on one of those things, because, you don't know when they're gonna turn or whatever, having those arm signals, I think, is important for them to know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Councilor Cobb.
I think, I'm all for trying to identify ways to get them out of town. There's all kinds of great spots to ride somewhere else. That being said, aftermarket exhausts without spark arresters, maybe it's better that they're in town some days right now, because I also think that it's a very high risk of them starting to fire up in the woods. So, or in town, the way they're going around town as well. But yeah, I don't know if there's any buy-in amongst the ATV crowd to start their own organization to identify areas, lots of sand pits, fire breaks around town where they're on the outskirts of town where they can go and play. That's also worth noting, a lot of provinces right now are raising the ages of the ATV thing because people are dying everywhere. Right? ATVs and dirt bikes because they're riding outside their bounds and they're not wearing all the appropriate equipment. Yeah, they got helmets, but the guys catwalking down my street all the time, they're not wearing anything other than a helmet. And I've seen them wipe out, I've seen them rip through blind corners, they're on the multi-use trail. Somebody's gonna get hurt or killed or worse, or hurt somebody else. So it's, education's great, but they also need enforcement. If they're kids, they can't be riding on the streets, in my opinion.
Councilor Bennett.
What about those, motorized scooters? Those are just as dangerous too on the streets, but they're just scooting right in front of like vehicles, going like this.
Like ones for old people.
Not the old people,
Oh,
but no, and then they're doubling on their own scooters and coming.
Yeah, thank you. Right now, none of our bylaws address electric vehicles, be they scooters or bikes. And one of the most challenging bylaws that we have, while I personally support it, and I wear one all the time, is the helmet bylaw, and that's the only one that would address regardless of what propels the device. You have to be wearing a helmet, but the pushback from children and adults alike is challenging. Getting them young and giving them free helmets is something we do, and we have a stock of helmets. We also give out slushy tickets to the kids that are wearing helmets to say, great job, keep doing that. But it is definitely a gap in our bylaw, and one issue that's being brought up in other jurisdictions is how to manage those electric scooters and bicycles. So definitely another thing that we can add to the list of bylaw updates, and I think it has been identified in initial conversations. So, yeah.
Thank you, Director. Any more questions regarding the Director's report?
Just a comment.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you for handing out those, free slushies for the kids, like, they seem to be really happy when they get them. I saw one of the officers, I don't know his name, it wasn't you, but pulled over this little kid, he's all scared, and he gets this free slushy thing, and he's just happy. Thank you.
Mayor Ferguson.
Thanks. I just had one more question about with the Wooly training exercise that you're gonna be doing here. How many structural protections systems do we have for homes? Like, do we have a stockpile, or like how many buildings can we protect?
Yeah, so, there's two pieces to that. We have some right now, and we have approximately enough to do all of the Tamarack route. Yeah, just for a kind of a scope of how many sprinklers we have, maybe that and half of Carl's Drive, just for an idea. But part of a funding application through the Wildfire Resiliency Funding Pot was to get a type 2 structure protection trailer, which would do significantly more. It's like one of the trailers that's deployed to an incident, the ones that we saw coming through like Wildcat or those kinds. So that would be enough to do, say, Pine Crescent. So we've got a funding request in for more. In this instance, the incident will have to order some out of community. Fort Simpson just got a type 2 trailer a year or two ago. So they're another resource within the territory. And I believe that Hay River's looking at something similar. So we're building capacity in the north for quick deployment, which is great, and we're looking at getting around.
Councilor Key.
I forgot to ask, speed bumps, where have residents have requested these speed bumps be put up?
Yeah, thank you. So we have had concerns brought up about Pine Crescent around Paddle. So certainly that straight stretch of Pine Crescent, folks really get moving through there. Anecdotally, I've heard some things about Poppy Polar area, most recently Calder, especially around Wilderness, or that long straight stretch between Wilderness and Field. Has been of note, and we have talked in the past about the idea of doing it in school zones just to help slow traffic down. But specific requests recently were along Calder and Pine Crescent.
Haven't been here since you mentioned speed bumps, but I've only been back a few days, and people racing down McDougal has been something we noticed just in 3 days home. And a little white sports car, a little black sports car, at least two of them, go by my place. I mean, I don't know what speed they're doing, but I know, so if they're hearing about speed bumps on the back of it, McDougal, I don't want speed bumps on McDougal, but I certainly would be interested in enforcement, increasing their. If the guy needed to talk to.
Yeah.
I'm getting to you, they weren't here, but okay. But yeah, that's just 3 days home from the trip, and that's something we notice right away every day, going down McDougal. Yeah.
I think you're early.
They weren't here last.
Oh, that's why you're here? Okay. Oh.
Just want to point out that Calder Avenue is really bad. I don't want to spread the curse, because I don't want to talk about it. I also noticed that four-ways, people are not stopping anymore. I've seen a guy drive right through it, didn't stop, didn't look. They come up the corner, they turn right, turn left. They don't stop it. So it's not only the children need to be educated on what a stop sign is.
Yes.
Unfortunately. But it's going to catch somebody because some of those four-way corners have great big bushes and you can't see around the corner. It's going to get somebody off guard. There's going to be a kid walking or something.
If I could speak to that, there's actually a bylaw that prohibits bushes at corners from being that high, and we're working with folks on it. So that's a great point, and actually we received a public concern about that just recently. And I know of at least one instance of a kid almost being hit at a sidewalk where there's an intersection with tall shrubs. So that's a concern of ours, and we're working on that absolutely. I do wonder about, I've often wondered, since I moved here, I've never seen yield signs at 90-degree intersections. So I feel like the mix of yield signs to stop signs in our community might add to that. Do you stop, do you not piece? But bylaw is trying to be at places where people are doing these things. It's hit or miss whether he gets to see them or not, but definitely it's on there.
Yeah, I just want to tag on to Councilor Tuckey. I often sit on my deck having a coffee now that I'm retired in the morning, and I have a clear view of that four-way at Calder and Wilderness. And I would say at least 60% of the vehicles, and not kids on bikes or anything else, vehicles do not stop. They'll either have a rolling stop or they'll just go straight through. And I often thought about redirecting my squirrel cam to point at the intersection and posting it online so people can see. But people in this town, I'm sorry to say, do not understand how a four-way stop works. That's my comment.
Mayor first.
Thanks. I was just wondering if the conversation we're having about ATVs and access and getting trails maps and stuff, is this something we should send to our committee to come back to us, to give us, to devolve, like one of our CSAPs or one of our committees that we have? Would this be value for them to give us some information or get some community engagement, or maybe the possibility of a user group that would kind of help collaborate with agreements in place so that we can make safe access in and out for ATVs and trails? Like how do we move forward with that? Because we've all just addressed that there's an issue. So how do we make a solution? Like how do we move forward with not just an issue? Like how do we fix it? Chair? Chair?
Oh, sorry.
Let me bring it to my SMC tomorrow and see sort of what the feedback is with the team, if they actually think one of the committees would be appropriate venue. We have talked before about utilizing our committees more, so yeah, let me bring it to SMC tomorrow and see what come back with.
Okay.
So you can do a final call on director's report comments. Councilor Key.
Last one. The photos and videos that will be collected by Ryla, and what's going to happen to those, especially if they're, I know it's legal to take photos and videos in minors in Canada if they're on public property, but it is a concern for some of the parents and guardians within our community.
Director.
Yeah, that's a valid question, and we've actually adopted an operating guideline that's very much in line with what the RCMP does. They are kept secure. They're not for public consumption. And if once it's resolved, once the ticket's resolved, or whatever outcome is resolved, they're destroyed. We don't keep them unnecessarily, and we would never share them with anybody other than law enforcement agencies when appropriate.
Okay, final call for questions, comments on director's reports. Sorry, Chair. Seeing none, I will, as chair, insert a delegation at this point.
Or go back.
Or you go back to item D, yes, delegations, and welcome the Corporal, as you said, for your presentation on the May 2025 report.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to have Constable Freeman, who's acting corporal, do it tonight just to get some experience at doing it. So.
Be nice, guys.
You're on.
Alright, so I'll also start from the top and work my way down here. The Portsmouth RCMP attachment investigated a total of 204 occurrences through the month of May 2025, which is an increase of 50 more occurrences in the previous year of May 2024. There have been a 73% decrease in reported drug offenses over the same month last year. This is likely due to increased awareness within the community and efforts actions taken. Community policing priorities. Number one, I have road safety, which is a big hot topic right now. So this initiative is enforcement-based, focused on road safety through targeted enforcement activities, check stops, stopping vehicles, leaving licensed establishments, etc., and also by investigating complaints made by members of the public. Police received 4 reports of possible impaired drivers from members of the public during the month of May. Police conducted 2 targeted enforcement actions over the month in which 14 vehicles / off-road vehicles were stopped, resulting in charges pending in collaboration with bylaw, targeted enforcement, including monitoring intersections for violations, conducting radar enforcement in reduced speed zones, monitoring vehicles leaving the liquor store and other establishments, as well as check stops. Number 2 is reconciliation and community engagement. This initiative is focused on building and strengthening relationships with our Indigenous communities. This will be done through activities focusing on reconciliation and involvement with youth activities. We are actively seeking input from community partners on how we can better impact with youth and the community in general, and also with activities we can undertake in the spirit of reconciliation. This month we took part in the Red Dress Day, where all members were in attendance, as well as Constable Woodward attended JBT for a lockdown drill. Number 3 we have is harm reduction. This initiative focuses on reducing crime by doing regular compliance checks on repeat offenders, proactively seeking individuals who are wanted, making presentations at schools or in the community on various topics, and investigating drug dealers or bootleggers. In regards to prolific offenders, we have to address what causes the great harm to the enforcement. The Taffin area, a prolific offender management system was created in an effort to identify and monitor those who are most likely to cause the most significant amount of harm to the community. Harm reduction will tie directly into community policing as parties, and partner engagement will be critical. So successful outcomes, patrols will continue to detect deter illicit behavior. Under this initiative, the Fort Smith RCMP has in this month May completed 8 compliance checks, resulting in 1 arrest where charges were laid. Members attended an interagency meeting, the high school local child family services concerning high-risk youth. And then I can get into the all the numbers if everyone's ready for that. So the violations, first I'll start with assaults, excluding sexual assaults. The current month is 23, year-to-date 87. Current month of previous year 15, previous year total 239. Next violation is sexual offenses. Current month 2, year-to-date 7. Current month of previous year was 2, previous year total 22. Mental health, current month is 13, year-to-date 49. Current month of previous year was 7, previous total for the year was 134. Well-being checks, current month is 7, year-to-date 48. Current month of previous year 10, previous year total 101. Drug offenses, current month is 3, year-to-date 39. Current month of previous year 10, previous year total 68. Impaired driving, current month is 4, year-to-date 8. Current month of previous year 5, previous year total 65. Mischief, property damage, current month 7, year-to-date 20. Current month of previous year 3, previous year total 58. Possession of property obtained by crime, current month is 0, year-to-date 1. Current month of previous year was 1, previous year total 2. Break and enter, current month is 4, year-to-date 13. Current month of previous year was 0, previous year total 19. For theft, current month is 12, year-to-date 31. Current month of previous year 9, previous year total 93. Disturb the peace and mischief, basically interfere with the lawful enjoyment of property. Current month 45, year-to-date 179. Current month of previous year 30, previous total 462. Other violations, current month is 67, year-to-date 223. Current month of previous year 54, previous year total 667. Total violations, current month is 187, year-to-date 705. Current month of previous year 146, previous year total 1,930. So the total occurrences of the month is 204, year-to-date 773. current month, the previous year, 154, for total of 1,962.
Any other questions?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm just looking at some of the numbers in the industry comparison, but the one that caught my eye is the break and enter stats. Last year, we had 19 for the whole year. We're at 13 already in June. I'm looking at these numbers, break and enter. So that seems to be on a pretty high curve to me, to be much higher than 19 by the end of the year. Have you noticed anything different happening as with the break and enters seem to be climbing that quickly?
Seems to be, this year seems to be a lot more like motorized scooters and bikes.
Okay.
They stole them, which I think they're easy targets, somebody keeps them outside and they disappear.
That's considered a break and enter to take a scooter?
And some of those may not have, like in previous years, we recovered a lot of bicycles that nobody ever claimed. This year, that seems to be a little different trend, and I'm thinking because you're getting electric bikes, electric scooters, which, you know, they're not the run-of-the-mill $200 bicycle, it's, you're up to thousands, so it's becoming more and more visible that those are the things that are happening. A lot of that too is reported as stolen, but then it's generally painted.
And you capture those under B&E?
That's bad.
You can, but B&E is different, it's break and enter.
So that's what the stats I'm looking at, B&E stats are,
Oh, the break and enter?
they're climbing, they seem to be relatively high this year.
Yeah, the break and enters are in terms of, it comes in as a mischief call, but if somebody's like, people will, somebody goes in your house, it's a break and enter.
Yeah.
If you didn't invite them in. Well, a lot of those get classified when they first come in as mischiefs. And some of the ones that were reported, like we're clamping down on that, on misrepresenting what it actually is. So it may come across as a mischief, and it may get scored as a mischief, and it gets rescored as break and enter to reflect the true side of it. So just depending on sometimes what the previous year statistics were, how well they were checked, just they can skew that a little bit. There is an increase of break and enters with people a little more desperate for cash. You know, somebody goes out, we're in a community where a lot of people don't lock their doors. And so there's not in the true sense of the word when you think break and enter, they kicked my door in. They just went in and then all of a sudden they report, you know, my purse is gone, or I noticed this is gone, and sometimes it's family related. So it's just, normally that would be classed almost as a mischief, but now it's reflecting more and more what it actually is. They obviously took it as break and enter.
Kind of a follow-up on what Mike was just saying is, so like assaults, well-being, break and enter, theft, and disturbing the peace are all increased for the month of May. And so what's related about all of those? Why were there such increases?
I can't tell you.
It's the same population, different population? Is it just a trend? Is it like something, an influence?
It could be more people willing to report. We did a good job at having people report drugs in the community. That emboldens people now to start reporting other crimes that they're aware of. So it's not surprising that there's an uptick in what people are reporting. They're less, I guess they're more community involved. Whereas before it was difficult, a lot of stuff that happened, we would hear about it weeks after, but never got a report on it at the time.
See, it's an interesting thing that you say, and if you say it, I'm listening going, so the increase in reporting gets more and people are involved, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But when you look at the numbers, it feels like a bad thing.
It feels like a bad thing.
Because I'm reading and I'm like, wow, it went up.
Yeah, because before it was under report.
So somewhere in your communications, for you guys, I think as well, and letting people know like this is a good thing. It's not a bad thing to have more reported.
Yeah, it sounds bad, but in actual
it does.
fact, it's people being more aware of what's going on, and I'm going to report this. You know, we did it with drugs, and that was the big scary thing. So I don't mind reporting a break and enter or an assault or something like that. So.
Yeah, go for it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
See, mental health calls are still pretty high, and I'm almost afraid to ask, but I wonder, do you have access to the room at the health center yet?
You already knew the answer.
I know,
No, and it, in all fairness, it creates a problem for us.
What does?
Because we have somebody who's a little violent, can't leave them there. And then that ties up one or two officers. And at this time right now, that's a strain on us to have to do that. And it's, our concerns fall on dead ears. It's, there's some kind of something, you know, it's got to do with the healthcare system where you have two different entities within. One doesn't want to pay for it, the other one feels they should, and it's a back and forth thing. So I don't know, that's what's being told to me. I'm not sure that it's been resolved or even discussed at any level. You know, if we ask, it's always, yeah, no, it's still not available to you.
It is brought up at the Regional Wellness Council committee meetings every time. And what we're told is it's still sitting with infrastructure because they own the building and they're responsible for making sure the repairs are up to code. And it's going to be at least 6 months as of our last meeting, which is pushing it farther and farther and farther. Nothing seems to be progressing.
I don't think people really understand, you know, further up the gravity of what it actually means with that room being down. When you're sort of detached, it's just a room. But for us in the community, that's a huge concern. Because for the majority of people we bring up, they're alive.
I have another question. It's not really, like, it's kind of related to your report. It was some citizen came in today, and it was the anniversary of Frank Rubin's disappearance, and they were asking, is there been any new information? What is there? Are we restarting a search, or where are we at with that file?
I spoke to that gentleman.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Every lead that's come in, they're getting, in fairness, they're getting fewer and fewer. Is researched and investigated, and some of them are just same lead, but secondhand, third hand. And so each one is investigated. His concern was there thoughts that we would be starting another search. And as I explained to him, it's not a problem to do the search, it's a problem to find a targeted area. We've got such a large area around here that there's, we need thousands of searches to literally try to cover everything, and still would not probably be successful. So what we're hoping is this time of the year, when it becomes more prevalent in people's minds, is we're hoping that somebody will come forward that actually knows something or a little component. The further away it gets from the time that it actually happened, it's more likely somebody will come forth with something that's actually pertinent to what it is, and then we can, once we start that investigation, that actually gives us a target area to go in. There, as this gentleman explained today, like, why can't you just go into a site cabin and search? And because that requires a search warrant, and we don't have the grounds to just go in anybody's house. We wouldn't be able to get that signed by a judge unless we actually had something that was concrete to back that up. So it's not dead with us. It's everything that comes in, and there's a few that come in, not as many as there was originally, but everything that comes in, we investigate it to close extent, and until we can disprove it, it's investigated. Once it's disproved, then we wait for the next one.
I remember back when they had that gathering in the Salt River First Nation building for it, and there was talk about the Missing Persons Act.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been an update on that?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that there was some things that they did that make it easier for us to track when a person is missing. In this local area, we haven't had anybody that we've had to use that yet. But there are some changes that went through that now allow us access to cell phones and that type of thing, which is crucial. It's all time sensitive. It's great if you get it 6 months later, but you really need it on the day that it happens so that you actually have an idea where that phone was at that particular time, and or where it may still be, because once it gets turned off or the battery dies, you're done. So there are some, we just, fortunately, we haven't had to move around here.
Thanks. During the 2023 evacuation, during the mornings when we had all these crews here for like attacking and actioning the fire, I know it was brought up at safety meetings in the morning, mentioning to make note of, you know, a person in the area was missing. I don't know if that kind of communication is still happening as people are entering properties and doing structural protection in remote areas, wherever they are, that, hey, you know, if you see something suspicious, do note that there is still someone missing, actively missing in our community. So if there is something notable that you're like, because you're there, you know, putting up structural protection on buildings and such, I don't know if that communication is going unilaterally between departments, but maybe that should be said maybe at safety meetings, especially if we're having 100+ extra people walking around our community.
Yeah.
I don't know where to send that, I'm just saying that.
Yeah, and it's a good idea, like, you know, there's no such thing as a bad idea when you're looking for somebody.
Yeah.
Every little bit helps. And, you know, what I walk by every day and see as normal, somebody else may walk by that doesn't see it every day, and might strike them as odd. And
Right.
it isn't that I'm not looking, I'm just so used to walking by something that I just don't register that there's something different. So, yeah, that's a good idea.
That's your question for Mr. McNabb. You're involved with Unified Command, right?
Within the ICS structure, yeah. I'm not in Unified.
Well, no, but you have access to them.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has a boss. I mean,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be quite easy to get the message across that we'd like your people to be aware of this missing person?
I can certainly bring that, absolutely, yeah.
Continue with the report.
Justice reports, victim services referral accepted, current month 1, year-to-date 8, current month of previous year 4, previous year total 24, victim services referral decline, current month is 10, year-to-date 36, current month of previous year 8, previous year total 86, victim services proactive referral, current month is 3, year-to-date 3, current month of previous year 1, previous year total 9. Victim services not available, that's 0 across the board. Victim services support to RCMP, call for service attendance, that's 0s across the board. Youth alternative measures, YCJ, warnings and cautions, current month 0 across the board again. Youth diversion, community justice referrals is 0 across the board. Adult diversions, community justice referrals, 0 across the board. Emergency protection order, current month 1, year-to-date 4, current month of previous year 3, previous year total 18. Emergency medical transport of patients, current month 0, year-to-date 0, current month of previous year 0, previous year total 2. Prisoners held on detachment occurrences, current month is 27, year-to-date is 63. Current month of previous year is 9, previous year total 168.
Are these services that we offer, this victim services support, call for certain alternative measures, youth diversion, adult diversions, is that, we have that like capacity in the community? Okay.
It's, we're starting a new initiative where at one time victim services was, I just asked them, do you want victim services? Yeah, no, I don't want it. If we felt we were like quite emotional at the time and we're not right there, we would do a proactive and then leave that up to victim services to contact the person and say, do you need our services? So now we're, I think starting in June, we're going to now, they're just going to be proactive. So whether you say no or not, if you say yes, that's fine, you'll get it. But if you say no, we're just going to make the application on your behalf. If usually it takes a week or so for them to contact the victim, hoping at that time that the victim will say, yeah, okay, well, I want to talk to somebody, or I need to talk to somebody. So a lot of times when these people are really emotional, they decline that because they don't want anybody to know in the community. So we just want to bypass that and say it's proactive. If whether you want to or not, if you don't want to talk to them, that's fine. But we're always going to put you in front of them.
I noticed that there's more youth walking around drunk. And I mean, some parents are like at their ends wondering what they can do about it because the youth just do not listen anymore. Is there some way they can find the help they need? What do you do with a youth when you pick them up if they're drunk?
Hopefully I'm able to take them home and their parents will take responsibility. I'd like to tell you that happens, but it doesn't. They don't want the responsibility. The general attitude I get when I go to the door, and I'm sure my office will do the same things, home and go, and then maybe they'll learn a lesson, which is not the answer. What we have done proactively is there was an individual in town that was buying liquor for the youth. We actually took them to the liquor store and asked that they be banned. And the liquor store has complied with that. It's done. So if we catch somebody or believe that somebody is, that's what's going to happen. They will not be able to buy any kind of liquor at all. It's not much, but it's a start. Kids are getting it somewhere. They're not walking into the liquor store and buying it. It's somebody that's buying it for them. I think it's, you know what, it goes back basically to the same thing as when we have an adult who's has substance abuse issues and they go for treatment and they come back, there is no support mechanism in place. And that support mechanism I think is crucial not only to them, but I think it's crucial to the younger kids who are coming up who maybe want help, are embarrassed to go say anything about it. They don't want their parents to find out, like any number of reasons. There is nothing for them to go anywhere other than a counselor. And I'm sorry, from what I've seen with counselors, they just don't cut it when it comes to that. That's not their area of expertise, and that's about as effective as me talking to you immediately and have a drink. I can tell you all the reasons why you can't, but I don't know what else to do.
Last page here, First Nation and Community Policing Program, letter of collaborative priorities, community policing engagements, current month 1, year-to-date 3, current month of previous year 0, previous year total 0, reconciliation cultural activities, current month 0, year-to-date 4, current month of previous year 0, previous year total 0, community leadership meeting, current month 2, year-to-date 14, current month of previous year 0, previous year total 0, cultural awareness training 0 across the board, activities to increase awareness of policing, current month 1, year-to-date 4, current month of previous year 0, previous year total 0, school visits / presentations, current month 1, year-to-date 4, current month of previous year 0, and previous year 0. So if you have any questions or statements.
The activities to increase awareness of policing, what does that mean? That's a lovely sentence, but what does it mean?
Yeah, it would be going to the school.
That's the next one, isn't it? School visits?
Yeah, but it's along that thing, like making people aware of what people just see it sometimes. It's just we're not proactive, we're reactive.
Yeah.
But it's about being proactive.
That's what if you guys think here tonight, does that count as one?
Yeah, it just depends on.
Be nice.
We'd like to do more of it, but resources being what they are difficult to do some of these initiatives.
Councilor Fairchild?
Yeah, I noticed on the first page you said any ideas for engaging with the youth and the community. Way back when I had more hair than I do now, the RCMP actually had an office in the high school. Not that they used it that much, but they would stop by at break time, only a 10-minute break in the morning, they'd walk to the hall, they'd have a coffee in the staff room, they would come and participate in intramurals, and I know that's a staffing thing if you don't have it, but 10 minutes a day, if you're out and about driving around, just stop by and make your face known in the school. I think that was a great thing. It kind of broke down the barrier between us and them. You were, someone you may have played volleyball against, or someone, you told a joke to in the hallway, at break time. And I don't know why that ever died. It seemed to be very personnel specific. If someone was keen on it, it happened, and if that person transferred out and the next person in wasn't as keen, then it just died. But I thought it was a great initiative. So it's something impossible to look into, maybe for the fall, starting up in September.
We've been asked by Salt River First Nations that we would be willing to participate in some youth activities involving substance abuse. And then we've agreed to that when they start. Not sure when they're going to start that, but they're looking into starting a program when they it'll be youth and adults that we'll try and integrate in. I mean, we're not just police officers, we're members of this community as well. And sometimes we're not viewed that way. We're just viewed as people that are here for a few years and then we're gone. And that in some cases is true, but it doesn't make us any less not members of this community and want to see it progress in a positive way. So we're open to anything like that as a partnership. And so that's the first of it that they're looking to start coming into later on this summer and this fall. And we'll definitely be there, maybe not in uniform, and I'm not so sure sometimes it's not better than not be in uniform. It just shows a more human side to us as opposed to you're in a uniform, why are you here? That's always the first questions that people are looking at. You almost feel that, like, okay, why are you guys here? And sometimes we're just there because we're interested in helping out the way we can.
Okay, and saying that, like, do you have T-shirts that says police or whatever, just to wear when you're not in your uniform?
Yeah, we could. It has
Yeah.
a badge that's the RCMP crest
Yeah.
on it. Yeah.
And then, like, as part of reconciliation, we have the Indigenous Day coming up on June 20th. Yeah, how do you feel about getting pie in your face? By the youth.
Lars prefers duct tape.
By the youth. We're trying to get these board things, and then you put your face in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so.
Yeah, anything that's in fun and games.
Yeah.
I think in my first year here, they were doing, I think it was for your son down at the park, and the guys participated in the dunk tank and stuff like that, which is fair game. That's not involved.
The mayor would be happy to join you guys.
Oh, yeah.
I'm same with the bylaw officer.
If you guys do it, we'll do it.
There you go, it's a challenge. So set it up and we'll be there.
Nice, good to know.
Leadership by example, Tracy, SAO should set the pattern.
Yeah.
Seeing no further questions, I'd like to thank Sergeant Doucette
Thank you very much, guys.
for presentation.
Great, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Good night.
See you.
Okay, moving on to the agenda, we will start with item F, administration. Item A under that is briefing note, DPA 02625, home occupation, Sweetgrass Heating Center, Inc. I can have a motion to.
I can do that. I'll move that DPA -026-25 submitted by Christy Lynn Jones to operate a virtual-based counseling, wellness, consulting, and coaching services. Sweetgrass Healing Center Incorporated from Lot 359, Plan 207, 13 Poppy Crescent, Fort Smith, be approved.
Thank you, Councilor Tuck. Seconded,
I'll second it.
Mayor Ferguson, thank you. discussion, questions? Does the administration want to have any comments?
Yeah, I'm just reading the briefing note, and it says virtual and mobile consulting and coaching. So does that mean people are not going to that locale for the coaching? Or are there gonna be times that people, or even small groups, will show up for a coaching session? Like, I'm a little bit confused. Is it mostly all virtual and mobile? She goes out? Okay, that's what I want to know. Thank you.
Any further questions, discussions regarding the application? Seeing none, all in favor? Approved unanimously. Now we're closing again. Item B, briefing note, DPA 028-25, home occupation, smokelicious. Motion to approve, or motion?
I move that DPA -028-25 submitted by Raphael Jeanson Gilnes to operate the production of smoked meats, fish, and cured meats and sausages from lot 306, plan 207, 25 McDougal Road, Fort Smith be approved.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Cox. Any comments? Anything from administration on this? Councillor Carrison.
Well, this is a little bit different because it's a home business that's going to be providing foodstuffs. How do we know that health code violations, or not violations, health code rules and regulations are going to be followed if we're allowing a business to provide food being prepared out of their home?
Director.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Karashak. So, what Mayor and Council will be approving right now is the ability for the business to operate out of the home because it's conditional use for the zone. And then once we get approval, if that's what the decision is, then we'll move forward with the business licensing piece. And under the business licensing piece, we would ensure that those items are in place as part of our business licensing, including fire safety.
Deputy Mayor.
Lord knows I love my smoked meats, but if he's doing it on a commercial basis, the quantities that he would be doing, which would lead to in a small neighborhood, smells, smoke and food at a level that's more than my domestic consumption that I would do at my own home. Is that an issue that we worry about, or is there a process that the neighbors are at least given a chance to say we don't want to wake up smelling smoked fish every day?
Yeah, thank you. So, under considerations, certainly nuisance traffic, smoke, and noise are all possible considerations. I can't speak to the quantity or the smell, the resulting smell. Having said that, should this be approved, once it is approved, part of the zoning bylaw process is to send letters to the surrounding neighbors for them to consider. Yeah.
In the application, it says 2 to 3 times a month. Ones that's looking
That's
to
not too
sell
bad
from
then, yeah.
market.
Not sure.
Any further comment? All in favor of the motion? Approved unanimously. Item C, briefing note DPA 030-25, home occupation, rooted resilience. Motion?
I'll move that DPA -030-25 submitted by Leah Mercurdy to operate gardening workshops and consulting business from lot 20, plan 14, 56 Pelican Street, Fort Smith, be approved.
Seconded. Councillor Benwell, thank you. Any comments? Discussion? Anything for the administration? No. Okay. All in favor of the motion as presented? Approved unanimously. Okay, under other business, Nothing was noted. Excusing of counselors, we're all present, accounted for. Date of next meetings, Protective Services Standing Committee meeting will be July 1st, 2020. We do not have a meeting on July 1st. Canada Day.
Then I guess it bumps, so it would be
July 2nd.
following, no, it would be following
7th.
Tuesday, guys. Is that, 8?
Councilor Thursday?
Couldn't we hold the date of the next meeting till the end of the corporate services meeting? That may or may not change depending on the discussion I had about meeting procedures.
Still to close this one out, but right now would be
We'll change it again.
Okay.
Okay.
So, administration have a recommendation for a new date?
8.
July 8th, okay. So, next Protective Services Standing Committee meeting will be July 8th, 2025. And a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn at 7:41.
Seconded. Deputy Mayor.
I need your brain. Yeah, your brain. Your window through.
We're good.
How do I change